What's up, college football fans, quarterback fans? Welcome to another QB Spotlight video. Today we're talking about new Georgia quarterback commit from the transfer portal, former UNLV quarterback Jayden Maiava, one of the best quarterbacks in all of Group of 5 this year, and someone that we spent a lot of time watching. So we're going to talk about another example of how the Group of 5 is becoming a springboard to the Power 5, but to get into what Maiava did this year, how he played, and why he was so sought after when he entered the portal, and 3, why Maiava would want to go to Georgia, and then why Georgia would want a quarterback like Maiava. If this is your first time tuning in to the QB Spotlight channel, we're just a big quarterback hub. We talk all things quarterbacks. We spend a lot of time talking about quarterbacks and the SEC. But we also are starting our new season 2 of a podcast where we have current and former quarterbacks come on, coaches come on, and we just talk about all things related to the quarterback position. So if you like that type of content, please consider subscribing to the channel. With that said, let's talk Jayden Maiava. And this is another example of the Group of 5 really becoming a springboard to the Power 5, right? You have a team, a school like Georgia who can get any player they want, and then you have a school like UNLV who has one of their best years in recent history. They have Maiava who bust on the scene and become one of the best quarterbacks in the Mountain West, all in Group of 5, and then boom, he leaves and goes somewhere else, right? You saw this throughout the country the past few seasons, from FCS jumping up a level, from quarterbacks in the G5 jumping up a level. So just another example, and this is just another example, and it's a little bit different just because Maiava is going to probably back up this year. Not probably, he is going to back up Carson Beck this year, but still maybe a different or another pathway that quarterbacks, the Group of 5, if they have a really good season, they want to go compete and go to the top level, right? It's just another example of that G5 being a springboard to the Power 5. But let's talk about Maiava. Let's look at him in a bit more detail and talk about his history, his background, and how he played this past year, right? So year 2, he was a redshirt freshman, took over beginning of the season. Early on in the season, their starting quarterback, Doug Brumfield, got hurt. Maiava took over, and after he took over, he didn't get the job back. And Brumfield was a quarterback who showed some good things last year, and I thought he was going to do really well this year. Still think he's a talented cat, but Maiava just took over, right? And then after the season, had a really good season. Then there were rumors that he was going to be in the portal, then rumors that he was out of the portal, kind of going back and forth until he finally hit the portal a week or so ago, maybe a little over a week ago, depending when you're watching this video, and then went to Georgia. So statistically, redshirt freshman year, threw for just over 3,000 yards, had 17 passing touchdowns, 10 interceptions, 8.7 yards per attempt, so did a good job pushing the ball downfield, and then 277 yards on the ground, 3 touchdowns. Big guy, about 6'4", 220 or so, give or take, depending on what roster you look at. And a few reasons to really like Maiava, right? Of course, he busted on the scene. He was arguably the best quarterback in the Mountain West, and he was developed really, really well by one of the best offensive coordinators in college football right now, Brendan Marion, who's made the go-go offense, if you will, popular, right? Marion did a really good job putting Maiava in positions to succeed. Did a really good job of giving him good reads, easy reads to make, and then Maiava did a great job making those throws, right? So once he took over, and once he developed, and once he really meshed perfectly with the OC systems, that's when he really started to take off. So let's look at him in a bit more detail to kind of tell Georgia fans what you're getting in Maiava. So in this go-go offense, there are RPO schemes, they're pushing the ball downfield. There's a bunch of different schemes going on. I'm not going to pretend to have enough football knowledge to describe it, so I don't want to butcher it, but there's a lot of play action and straight dropbacks, right? Out of all of his attempts, 45% of Maiava's passes were off play action, meaning only 55 are straight back. That's pretty high up there. And he did a much better job off play action. So off play action, he had 11 passing touchdowns, only 3 interceptions, and his yards per attempt were 9.9. So he did a good job ripping the ball downfield, right? Probably getting the defenders out of position, ripping the ball downfield. On straight dropback, so without the use of play action, without the use of being able to disguise, the play with the run game, he had 6 passing touchdowns, 7 picks, 7.8 yards per attempt, and he had nearly 40 more attempts on straight drop back throws and play action. So he just looked a lot more comfortable running play action. And a lot of times young quarterbacks especially can be more comfortable when you have the element of play action in the passing game for a few reasons. Number one, it gets the defense out of position, right? The defense gets out of position, the throw becomes becomes potentially easier, right? And number two, when these guys get out of position, you have less defenders on the field. You have guys thinking about their run game. The more and more play action you have, the more likely you are to get safeties to creep up, the more likely you are to be able to hit a deep shot, right? It's just going to have, you have less defenders in a passing window, less defenders defending the pass when you have play action. So a lot of times that tells us the quarterback feels a lot more comfortable. And then whenever they drop straight back, they don't have the help of a running back getting a middle linebacker out of position. So it can be tougher on reads, especially on early quarterbacks, right? But nothing too concerning or alarming there. Just something interesting to take note of, right? Was a lot better off play action than on straight drop passes, but that's kind of normal on young quarterbacks who are developing. Number two, he was much better versus the blitz compared to when he wasn't blitz, which kind of goes hand in hand with why he was better at play action. Now, just because he was blitzed doesn't mean he was good against pressure. He was blitzed, so let's get this out for folks. Against the blitz, he had 6 passing touchdowns to 1 interception. Really good ratio, right? Against non-blitzing defensive schemes, he had 11 passing touchdowns to 9 picks. So basically every pick but one was whenever he dropped straight back or whenever the defenders weren't blitzing. Whenever someone's blitzing, if they don't get pressure on you, now you just put a defender out of position. So as a quarterback, a lot of times you're taught wherever that blitzer is coming from, wherever that rusher is coming from, a lot of times you want to deliver the ball into that space because one less defender. So good against the blitz, good off play action, struggled off whenever there wasn't any blitzing, whenever he have 8 defenders you have to read through, struggled a little bit more, and then struggled on straight drop back passes. But what he was really good on, and he was excellent actually, was pushing the ball downfield. 19 completions of 20 plus yards or more, pushing the ball downfield, 8 touchdowns, 0 picks on those throws. So almost half of his throws that were 20 yards downfield or more were touchdowns. Almost half, right? Few completions off. But just a really good job stretching the field. So a lot of things to like about Maiava. And I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Depending on the game players you watch, could be a different pronunciation. But a lot of things to like about him, and I think if he develops as Georgia's probably hoping he can develop, he could be a great fit for them. So with that said, why this move? Why, if you're Jayden Maiava, would you leave UNLV? Okay, I get it. You want to go play somewhere else. Totally get it. But why would you want to go to Georgia and sit and be the backup? Well, let's look at it from what he said, right? And I quote, he said this the other day, I just want to compete against the best. Quote again, I want to learn from Carson Beck, right? So his words, not ours, right? Wants to learn from Carson Beck, compete against the best. But he did credit his coaching staff and the coaching staff at UNLV for getting him ready, which kind of goes back to the point at the beginning of the video, how G5 has become the springboard to the Power 5. So we understand, okay, we get the move for Maiava. Okay, Maiava, you want to go compete against the best. You want to learn, you want to develop. I think it's a long-term move. I think it's a long-term kind of step. Who knows what happens in a few years, but from his point of view, this is the next best step of his career. So if you're Georgia, why this move? Why do you bring in a quarterback like this? Well, you need depth. You need backup, right? You want to have an experienced backup in case something happens. You can never have enough experience in the quarterback room. And from Georgia's standpoint, college football has become like a professional standpoint now, but any pro team, if you have the money, you just go get the best available player and see what happens. That's kind of what I feel like Georgia did, right? Competition for the number 2 guy. Anytime you have a really good quarterback available, you go and get him, right? So they'll be competing against Gunnar Stockton and the incoming freshman, who I don't want to butcher the name, so I'll try. Puglisi? Okay, that's awful. I apologize. That's terrible. But he's a highly talented guy. Some of the guys that know a lot more about football than I do think really highly about that kid coming in. So a lot of competition there. But those are the kind of reasons why, if you're Georgia, why you bring in Maiava. Why not? If he hits it, he's great, fantastic. If you're Maiava, you go in, you learn, you play for one of the best teams in college football. So again, I was a bit surprised, but my opinion doesn't really matter at all. But it was a bit surprising to see him go to Georgia. But he was a cat who I was high on. Guys a lot smarter in football than me who coach at a high level were pretty high on him and have said some nice things to me about him. So he's definitely got a lot of talent. It's going to be interesting to see what happens. But regardless, this probably puts Georgia having the best quarterback room in the SEC, right? I mean, maybe Texas does coming in with Quinn and with Arch. it's definitely interesting, right? But this probably puts Georgia having the best quarterback room. But if you're an SEC fan, quarterback fan, Georgia fan, whatever, just a fan of college football, let me know your thoughts on Maiava in the comments below if you've had a chance to see him play. If you haven't, go back and watch some of his film, especially the game against Colorado State. Made some really nice throws in the last drive to go down and tie the game or take the lead. I forget which one exactly. I think it was to take the lead, actually. So yeah, go watch those games. He played really well. And again, if you like this type of quarterback content, we'll just kind of keep you updated with quarterbacks in the SEC and just quarterback landscape of mainly the SECs. Please consider subscribing, liking, sharing, all that fun YouTube stuff. It does help. And stay tuned for the podcast, the interviews that we have coming up in about a month. Again, a lot of great coaches lined up, quarterbacks lined up. It's going to be fun. They can share a lot of stories. So with that said, thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, all that stuff. Peace.